Welcome to the demonstration of Biodiesel Buddy, smartphone application for BlackBerry. Today I'll be demonstrating the application on a desktop simulator of a BlackBerry 9500 Storm with OS 5.0. Biodiesel Buddy is available for a variety of BlackBerry smartphones, so depending on which handset you have, your user experience may vary slightly. But for the most part, what you see will be similar to what you see on this Storm today. Let's get started. As with all third-party apps, once you download it from your particular app store, you'll find it under the Downloads folder, and you can launch Biodiesel Buddy with this application icon here. Now when Biodiesel Buddy starts, it will attempt to use the BlackBerry handset's GPS and location aiding services to determine where the device is and search for biofuel stations near that location. Now in order for this to work, you do have to have GPS and location aiding enabled for your BlackBerry in the device options. As you see here, the device was able to find its current location, and it returned a rather long list of biofuel stations in the area, which is Seattle, Washington in this case. Now depending on where you're actually at, you very well may see a shorter list or possibly no stations in the list at all. That can happen if either there aren't any stations near you or if there are new stations that haven't yet listed with the Biodiesel Buddy database. You can send email to biodiesel-buddy at enscand.com, enscand.com, and I can certainly add your biodiesel retailer location to my databases. As you see here, there's a number of stations that we can choose from. The stations in the list are sorted by rough distance from your current location. In order to find out exactly where a station is, you can click on that station, and that will open up the Maps app on your BlackBerry and show you where you are and where the station is, and directions how to get from your current location to that station. And this works just like it would work if you were using your BlackBerry Maps application to find directions to anywhere. So it should be a very familiar user experience. If we quit Maps, we can go back to the Biodiesel Buddy application. Now let's say you don't want to find stations near where you currently are at, but want to find stations where you're going. For example, you're on a road trip. In which case, you can use the search field up at the top of the station screen to enter in either a city or a zip code. Now, searching by city name is a feature that's only supported on BlackBerry handsets with operating system 5.0 or above. So, for example, if you're using a Storm with OS 4.7, only searching by zip code will be available. So, for example, we can pick a zip code in Baltimore, Maryland, 21212, and Biodiesel Buddy very quickly finds the stations near that location. Now, if you do have a BlackBerry with operating system 5 or higher, you can search by city name. So let's go back to the West Coast. When you're entering city names, you need to use both the city and state and separate them by a comma. Case is not important. You don't need to use capital letters if you don't want to, but you do need to use the state code, the two-letter abbreviation, which is the same as you would use when using postal addresses, U.S. mail codes. So we'll hit enter here, and once again the application finds stations near Bellevue, Washington, which is very close to Seattle. Some of these are the same locations that we originally found when searching using the device's GPS, but you'll notice the stations that are actually in Bellevue are returned at the very top of the list. So that's the station finding features of Biodiesel Buddy. You'll also notice that in the list, in addition to the address, many stations have listed which blends they have offered. In this case, a 5%, a 20%, and a 99% blend of biodiesel. And frequently the phone numbers are made available for the stations, since sometimes you want to call the stations to see if they're still selling biodiesel, or, for example, if they're open late or on the weekends. One of the other things you might want to do the first time that you run the application is move over to the settings screen here and look at some of the ways that you can customize the Biodiesel Buddy user experience. The search radius pull down allows you to choose how far the application will search from either your current location or the city or zip code that you enter for biodiesel retailers. Nearby will yield a shorter list that only shows you stations that are closer to where you're searching. Conversely, if you set the search radius to wide, it'll find more stations that may be farther away. The background is basically the wallpaper that we'll see in the next screen that we navigate to. The choices here represent several plant feedstocks that can actually be used in the production of biodiesel. The default is soy, but why don't we choose waste vegetable oil here, just for the purposes of this demonstration. You can also choose to compare the carbon dioxide or effective carbon dioxide savings of your biodiesel usage, either against an automobile that was running on gasoline or another diesel automobile that was running on petroleum-based diesel as opposed to biodiesel. There's some more apps that you can choose to, or more settings for the app that you can choose to experiment with on your own time, but I think those are probably the ones that you would want to see before you use the app. So why don't we now move to the home odometer screen, which is where you can track your own biofuel usage. Let's say this is the first time that you've run the app, so there's nothing entered in this screen. What you want to do when you actually get to a biofuel station is, before you fill up, you want to enter in the current reading on your vehicle's odometer. So we'll say that our vehicle already has 50,000 miles. Then you want to enter in the number of gallons that the biofuel pump says you put into the car. That may be 12 gallons. Let's say 12.4. And hit enter. Now you'll also want to change or select which blend of biodiesel you're putting into your vehicle. Some stations sell multiple blends. Some stations only sell one or two blends. The blend corresponds to the percentage of biofuel in the blend. B0 is equivalent to normal petroleum diesel. B100 would be equivalent to pure biodiesel, and B99, which is what a lot of retailers carry, is 99% biodiesel. If you like, you can also enter in the current level of your fuel tank, which is essentially what your fuel gauge is reading before you fill up. Generally, after you fill up, you'll probably have a full tank. But in order to accurately gauge your mileage for each and every fill up, you'll need to enter in how full your tank is before you start putting in more fuel. If you only care about your total average fuel economy, then you actually don't need to put anything in this tank gauge. We'll say that in this situation we filled up the tank when it was 1/4 full. Biodiesel Buddy doesn't save any data until you press the save button. Now, once we've pressed the save button, it records our odometer reading, how much fuel we've put in, and the type of fuel, and what our fuel gauge was reading before we put the fuel into our vehicle. Now you notice it doesn't yet calculate fuel economy statistics for your last batch of fuel or overall. You need to wait until your second fill up before Biodiesel Buddy has enough information to calculate your fuel economy. So we'll close the application and pretend that a couple weeks have gone by and we're ready to fill up our tank again. We'll launch the application once again, and it comes up with the data that we entered during our last fill up. And now we'll say that we've driven 500 miles. So our odometer currently reads 50,500. This time we'll fill up with 11 gallons of fuel. This time we'll get B85. And this time we'll say that the tank is also 1/4 full. We'll save our entry. And as you see now, the application is able to tell you exactly how many pounds of carbon dioxide you've saved in purchasing your 2 tankfuls of fuel so far. And it's now able to calculate that your first tank fill, which you've already consumed, has given you an average fuel economy of 40.3 miles per gallon. You've had 2 fill-ups so far with different blends, and the average of those 2 blends is that you've used 92% biofuel up to this point. Now, if you want to look at the fill-ups that you've already made, you can navigate to the history screen where it shows the date, the fill-up quantity, and the fill-up blend, and it also gives you the opportunity to enter notes. You can use this to, for example, enter the price that you paid if you're interested in tracking your total biofuel expenditures, or maybe you just want to record which station you bought biofuel at. We'll say that this was Fred's Biodiesel. And let's say that the second fill-up was made at Big City Biodiesel. And there we have it. If we go back to our odometer, you see it still has our most recently entered data. Now, one common problem that you may have is, let's say you entered your data incorrectly and you didn't actually buy 11 gallons, but you bought 10 gallons and you want to correct that mistake. You can navigate to your history screen and select the particular row that you want to change. Click on that and select delete. Now if we go back to the odometer screen, you'll see that it returns to the original fill-up details where we had 50,000 miles on our odometer, and now we have an opportunity to re-enter that second fill-up. We'll say that the odometer mileage was correct, but this time we want to put in 10 gallons. We'll leave that at 1/4, B85, and hit save. And now you see, because we purchased a different quantity of fuel, the total CO2 savings is a little bit different. And the history screen reflects our entry. Once again, we can put in Big City Biodiesel. And exit the application. This has been a basic demonstration of Biodiesel Buddy for BlackBerry. I hope you've enjoyed the demo, and send any questions you have regarding the Biodiesel Buddy application to biodiesel-buddy@enscand.com. That's enscand.com. Thanks, and have a great day.